I had a mindset that I'm going to do what it takes to survive first.
Smaranda Maier, founder of Authentic Health, a health and lifestyle advice service based on an individual's biology. Thank you so much for coming in and joining me today on Garry Talks.
I had a moment when I said, I don't want to live like this. I can't live like this. I only have one life. Self-advocate. Don't be afraid to put yourself first.
You wouldn't have had a very emotional relationship with your mother.
Unfortunately not.
This is a GK Media podcast.
Smaranda Maier, you have an amazing story to tell. Growing up in Romania, moving to Ireland at the age of 35 with your 8-year-old son, not having really a word of English, and now finding and setting up your own business, which is making such a difference in people's life. And also, I think more importantly, it's creating more awareness into how we treat our own bodies in terms of health, medicine, lifestyle, wellness, and so on. You're very welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
You moved to Ireland 9 years ago from Romania.
Yes, that's true.
What was your expectations of Ireland when you arrived compared to the reality?
This question makes me laugh because I think was the ignorance as a bliss what brought me here, and I didn't know much about Ireland when I came. What I knew that I'm going to be in a town called Clonmel, what has a river, and that was a major for me because I was coming from a city with a river, and I was doing my morning runs. And I said, okay, that I didn't know much about the weather. I've been told that I can have 2 or 3 seasons in a day. And I said, okay, fine. And I had a mindset that I'm going to do what it takes to survive first and to start a new life. And if that's going to happen in a positive way, I will bring my son, because my son was 8 at the time. And I came because I was forced economically. So I went through a divorce, and in Romania, by law, when you divorce as a woman and a single mom, you have no rights, no support, no nothing. I'm not saying that it's good to have everything, because I think I'm a big believer in we are both equals, but not having at all any support, it was a tough moment. And I came after I had a brilliant corporate career with a company car and all that, being a successful medical representative, and ending up having to choose between being a single mother with no support from family and my job, my career. So obvious, naturally, I chose my son and being a mom, which was the best decision I ever made. But economically, I was nowhere. So I wasn't able to pay rent. I lost everything, by the way. So after 10 years being married and making a home and all that, I choose between having my son full time and having belongings. So I didn't mind that. It was, again, a bit of nuisance if you look at material part, but to me made a lot of sense. Everything what I put for the sake of Lucas, my son, and myself. So I came and I said, I'm going to do anything I will get to, because I didn't have English. My English was, hi, how are you? And when that was actually the biggest shock, that my English, what I learned during the school years, was nothing to do with English here. Yeah. So the accent, and I wasn't able to understand a lot of the words and all that. So because I was on my own, I had a friend, okay? So the way how I came was my best friend's daughter, she came in Clonmel because her doctor's husband, her husband is a doctor, and he got a job in the hospital, and they came in February 2015. So she said, okay, go, and Catherine is going to give you a room. And I said, okay, fair enough, like I can do that. The most dramatic part is that financially, I came with €120 in my pocket and a small suitcase. I didn't have money for cabin luggage to bring more belongings. So I just came with that, and I said, and I had a 3-week return ticket bought from home, and I said, I actually printed CVs and all that in Romania. I came with them, and I said, I'm trying for 3 weeks to get a job, no matter what is the job. So I forgot.
And what were you qualified in when you were living in Romania?
I forgot all my qualifications, so I had to, because otherwise that was the hardest part. I was having 2 master degrees in Romania. So one was in communication and public relations, and this is the closest to my heart. And the second was in social economy. And I had to forget that, because no matter how much I knew in my own language, in my own head, I couldn't express that here. I was a marketer, so I was working for myself just before I came as digital marketing, but I said, okay, I have nothing to share there. I don't know about their market. I don't know. So better is to leave everything behind and go to see what's there and what you can do. So I Googled, and I said, there are 2 hotels. I definitely will be able to do. I'm not afraid of work. So that's the bottom line. I'm not afraid of work. So I'm going to do whatever they have. Laundry, housekeeping, whatever. Gods were with me, because I went in the first hotel, and I had an interview with the owner, and I got a job in the breakfast team. So I was a waitress, but the supervisor was coming from the same city. I did know nothing about that, so I had no idea. The best thing, what that girl, she's currently in Clonmel, and we are still in touch, and whatever, God bless her heart, or she's Hungarian, and she said to me, the best thing what I can do for you is not to speak Romanian with you.
Yeah.
And I could not agree more.
Yeah, true.
So when I came, I was 35. Knowing what I know now about the neuroscience and biology and all that, my brain was already strong in Romanian. So the neural pathway for learning a new language was not as easy as it was for 20 years. Or for my son when he came. So the best decision what I could make was to start speaking solely in English alone. So not talking in Romanian anymore. And we decided together in 2017 so fast forward, I brought my son, everything was okay. And I started to study in English. So in 2017, when I got my first job, qualified kind of, I said to Lucas, let's go. Because I couldn't switch from talking at home in Romanian and next morning being medical secretary in a private hospital speaking English. I felt very hard. I felt that my Romanian words are slipping in a moment and then I get frustrated and I said, no, I'm not doing that. So I just turned everything on English and that's it. Like, I know my accent is not going to change, but obvious I can express feelings and I remember that it was, I think, January 2016. And my biggest wish was to be able to express feelings in English, because that was so hard for a person. And I don't know if you can relate. I heard a lot of foreigners, Polish and all that, telling when I fight with my partner or whatever, I use my own language because I'm not able to express. And I was fascinating. I said, that's so interesting. Now I understand, because the work that I'm doing, I understand how easy it is to express emotions in your own language when you think in that language.
Yeah, well, like my in-laws are Italian, and now they do have good English, but sometimes when they be saying something, I would find it hard to speak back with giving my opinion because I don't have the Italian to communicate it, and they wouldn't have the English to comprehend the words, which might be more, there wouldn't be common English phrases. It'd be more like an Irish saying or something like that. And it's suddenly within seconds, it's this massive frustration because you're not able to express yourself. And it really just changed dynamics in relationships in terms of having that lack of communication. And it's such a simple thing on the outside, but when you're in the middle of it, it's a very frustrating process to have all the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
What was the reception like for you as a Romanian coming to Ireland?
First of all, I found the difference in the level of stress was less, but now I know stress is a perception of what's going on inside. So probably I was very stressed when I came in Ireland, and I found that because the level of acceptance and support, what I perceived in the outside towards me, was so open. I felt extraordinary. And now going back and looking at the society and the patterns. So because I am coming from a country with a very, in communism, we didn't have the freedom.
Yeah.
We couldn't express ourselves, and also we didn't have much. I think the levels of stress were inherited from generation to generation. So the stress was a norm.
Yeah.
There was no such thing that have put your feet up. When I heard that first time, I was like, what do you mean put your feet up? Like, that's something what you need to earn. And then I realized, it's actually the norm, and you deserve, as just human being, you rest. I'm coming from a country where...
Because you grew up during communism in Romania.
Yes, yeah. So I was 10 when the revolution happened. And you have to think of, in Romania, there is no the conception of being a mom at home. No, you couldn't afford that. So everything is different. So the mom had to juggle the career, and yes, I think that the child care system is much better than in Ireland.
Yeah.
In that case, it was. I have to step back and think that 9 years ago, I don't know much about how it's now, but 9 years ago was much available, easier to get at the stage of 2 years of age until 6. By the way, my son was 7. You don't bring them to the school. We didn't used to. So you put them on the bus, and they're going.
This is in Romania.
Yes,
yeah.
That used to be.
Yeah.
I have to be very careful because I don't know exactly how it is now.
Yeah,
exactly. So I grew up with the key on my, like a necklace on my...
So are you saying that relationships between mother and child in Romania back then, because of communism, was a very kind of cold relationship?
Yes. Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, I'm giving you nuggets of what I'm doing now to kind of reparent that. So, for example, I'm journaling on a regular basis. I wouldn't say every morning, but yeah, most of the mornings. And I love you, sweetheart, is what I give myself now, because I never heard that as a child.
Because you, like, is it fair to say
that was the norm?
But you wouldn't have had a very emotional relationship with your mother.
Unfortunately not. And it's very interesting how I felt weird because of that. As a child, I always felt that I'm not performing as a good child. Now, this is what I've been told, but that was what I took and I embedded in my own mind, that I am not as everyone else because I'm not able to please my mom. So, and that was, I don't know what to do with that information when I was emotionally not developed and all that. So how I took advantage of the situation in Romania. When you are 14, you need it. It's kind of, I think it's some sort of similarity now in the system, but you have the option of going to study in a dormitory, kind of in a boarding school. It's not even a boarding school. It's in a different, to give you you leave home. Economically, I think it's because the houses are very small in Romania, and it's like my mom couldn't wait for having an extra space in the house because we were so...
you and your brother.
Yeah, exactly. And we only had 2 rooms. It was like a very small apartment and was like a box, really. And for me was, I escape from that emotional burden, what I felt, and I don't have to be so under her control. Now, coming back to the present, I realized that my mom was a narcissistic. She has a narcissistic behavior. She didn't know. Back then, I didn't know myself. I did a lot of work in the meantime because it was taking a toll on my emotional and mental health, and I didn't know where it's coming from, apart of blaming me so much and not knowing what to do with those feelings. It was tough for a person to kind of, I felt that sadness and frustration that something was taken from me, and everything what happened to me. And now I changed the perspective. Everything happens for me and happened for me, because otherwise I wouldn't be here. Otherwise I wouldn't be so knowledgeable and so enlightened, I say. And this is a gift, and so open to accept and see those things. But it was hard when you are playing in a victim mode. Everything happens to you. It's very heavy. It feels heavy.
But how does that define you then as a child, growing up where you don't really have a strong bond with, your mother, and then they're narcissistic and they're telling you that you don't, satisfy them, you don't make them happy? Like, how were you defining yourself as a person then when you were a child?
I think I was living in 2 worlds. In school, I was very appreciated.
Okay.
And I took a lot from that. But at home, no matter what I did, I could not please her. Not a hope. And it was kind of a contradiction there in my head, and I didn't know what to do. I felt like doesn't make any sense. I had a lot of moments in my life when I said, it's not making any sense to me, and I was blaming myself that I'm probably a little bit weird, that I'm feeling that. And I tried hard to please her, definitely. So. And
what about your father? Did he intervene? Was he the opposite of her?
I don't know if you know a little bit about the narcissistic behavior in people. They are very controlling. Okay. And definitely both of them came from different backgrounds. One was countryside farmer, that was my mom, and my dad was coming from a very
academic.
Yes. My grandparents, and I do have a lot to recognize and to a lot of gratitude towards my paternal grandma, because she was a teacher, and a lot of what I am now, I'm because of her. And she passed in 2012, and I felt like that was the moment when I'm a very spiritual person. If I need to say that, it's not obvious from the way how I'm talking. I felt after she passed, I could actually felt my strength from a different angle, from a different level. And I always say that if she wouldn't passed in 2012, probably I couldn't take the decision of divorce in 2013 and all that. So I felt like my angel moved in different dimension to take care of me.
And when you say that, after she passed in 2012, that's when you made some big life changes, getting divorced, leaving your home country, moving to a country where you didn't speak the language, starting from scratch and all that. The fact that you made the decision after she passed, is it that, and I don't be putting words in your mouth, but is it that you didn't want to disappoint her by getting divorced and leaving the country while she was alive? Or is it that you realized life was short?
No, I don't know exactly what was on the background, what happened in my subconscious mind, because I'm a big believer of we are only 5% aware, and what we are doing, it's only 5% of what we are actually thinking.
Okay,
we are not aware of the 95% unless we start digging and bring awareness and shine a light of the 95%. That's programming. And I don't know exactly what was happening in the 95%, but what I felt was the strength of an intuition, what I didn't have before. All of a sudden, that intuition, I'm in love with that intuition now. I'm living by that intuition, is there. And it shows me the way and gives me the strength.
Yeah.
And the fact that so I got married in 2004, and that was after I was very sick in a hospital. And my mom was obvious with me. I was 23 years old. And
why were you sick in the hospital?
Because I have spine issues. So I had scoliosis.
Okay.
As very young. And I was first time hospitalized because of my pain in my back.
And so what are the symptoms of scoliosis?
So basically you have an S in your spine. So your spine is curved. But my spine was so curved that in 2008 I had to have a surgery because my right lung was very tight among my ribs. I couldn't breathe. And anyway, my mom was telling me while I was in hospital, and it wasn't flared up inflammation in my back, and I couldn't walk properly. And I was just finishing my college, last year, I think, in college. And my mom told me, you better get married. In Romania, what used to be so you go to the college, you get married towards the end of the college, and then you have a child, and then career and whatever. Like, that's a choice, a lifestyle kind of choice. Yeah. But she was a victim of the society in that case, and I don't really blame her. But I will never forget what she told me. You can choose as a woman. You have to be chosen. And
say that again. You can't choose. You have to be chosen. So you can't choose who to fall in love with. And this is like 2004.
Yeah. So I remember like it was today. I was in a hospital in that ward, and she was telling me that. And this man who became my husband, I was in a short relationship with him, and I didn't like his family. So my intuition told me that, but I wasn't listening to my intuition. I didn't know, I didn't. So I kind of felt like, no, it's not for me. I met his family. I did not like at all what I saw. But my mom, which I tried to please all my life, told me, you can't choose. You have to be chosen. So he was kind of falling in love with me and whatever. So I was you are anyway handicapped physically. That's what my mom told me. You can't choose. You are not in a position to choose. And I was like, okay, so I better get married. So I did. And I ended up, after 10 years, crying every day. Like, that was the moment when I said, I know. And I had a revelation, kind of. I remember exactly, I was living uphill, and I used to walk in the downtown. And I remember going downhill and hearing, I was crying every moment when I left the house. Like, I didn't feel home at all. But I had a moment when I said, I don't want to live this like this. I can't live like this. I only have one life and I have to choose. And that was kind of the moment like, you actually can choose. So that walk, I remember like was yesterday, and I still, when I have tough days, I still remember that. And what happened afterwards is what brought me here in now, where I am now, and what
We'll speak shortly about the amazing work you're doing and what I love so much about the work that you're doing and the importance of it, and that shift that is needed in our lifestyle and in the way we consume medicine and food and so on. Medicine in inverted commas, shall we say. But I just want to go back to the story of, when you divorced in Romania. We were talking before we came into studio here about kind of the different conditions of, getting the green light for divorce, and then how it becomes more difficult if those boxes aren't ticked. Can you talk to me about those, but also the reality of what it's actually like as a mother, as a woman, going through divorce and having a young child in the middle of it?
Mm-hmm. So, as I said, I was a medical representative for nearly 10 years at that stage. And I had a bit of cushion, financial cushion, just to keep me because I knew I'm going to leave the home, a family home, which, by the way, was my husband's parents' home. We invested a lot. We transformed kind of the house, but it was still their own. And I had a bit of cushion to keep me for 6 months, rent and all that.
So were you saving this money on the side? Like,
yes.
Not saying it.
So I decided that I'm going to divorce in 2012, kind of towards the end of the year. And I left the home in April
2013.
Okay. And the divorce, the last court was in November 2013. Okay. Yeah.
So when you said the last court, there's a number of sessions
it can go
court.
for years, but because I decided that I am not asking for any belongings or anything like that.
So you wanted nothing. You just wanted.
I wanted
just
to
a
get
clean
divorced.
Yeah, exactly. And just go.
Yeah, and I wanted to have my son.
So in Romania, it's easier to get divorced if the husband is an alcoholic or abusive.
Not emotional abuse. Emotional abuse, I don't know how it's now, but there is not a thing legally. So if he's physically abusive, alcoholic, or now he cheated, okay, that's another thing. And if he's in jail, yeah.
And so, he
obvious was not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So none of them. My reason, the way how I saw, was that he wasn't capable to be a responsible parent. And I said, okay, I'm not going to have the second child because I couldn't because of my back. And it was to put my life in danger, another pregnancy. And I felt like I do not want to bring the same generational pattern into my son's life. I said, it's enough one that suffered and didn't understand my world didn't have meaning for me until recently, very recently, in the last 3 years. And I said, I felt that it's my mission to break that generational pattern, no matter what. So for me, that my son is going to be an emotional, balanced human being is like for someone else probably having millions in the bank or assets or whatever. So this is for me, if that happens, I am the richest human being in the world.
And it's something so many of us would take for granted. We presume our children are emotionally balanced. It's not something we, generally strive for or try to change things. It's, if they're happy, they're content, they're playing games,
Yes.
You just take it that it's a default that should be there in society.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to start to talk about that topic too much, but probably because I had only one and we were so close, and after he was here with me, only with me and whatever, I kind of started to pay attention to things what we usually don't. And every time when I actually saw that he's angry or he's frustrated and not the norm, I started to dig with questions and I started to pull, because he's a man and he's not easy and he's an introvert, 100%. Very emotionally balanced, I have to say. And I'm delighted to see that. And when you are connected to your child, now I only can speak from a perspective of having one child.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know how is to have 2 or 3, but when you pay attention to signals, there is no way that you can't fix things. As long as, I'm not saying to force, I'm not a believer in over discipline or forcing like that, but there is an emotion there what is not met. And if you pay attention to signals, you have the power. That's my belief, that you are in charge of that as a parent.
So you grew up in Romania, in initially communist Romania, and you had a challenging relationship with your mother, which as an effect had a knock-on issue with your father as well, because he was controlled by your mom. You had scoliosis. You got married, got divorced with a 9-year-old son in your mid-30s, moved to Ireland, knew nothing about it except that there was a river in Clonmel. Had to really learn the language, and pretty much just over 10 years ago from when you got divorced, you're here now, living in Ireland. Your son has done the Leaving Cert.
Yes, he did.
He wants to
He got his driving license Monday, so
he wants to become a chef.
Yes,
and possibly move somewhere in Europe to actually study one of the top universities, and we won't mention the astronomical fees involved. I hope to God that my 2 girls that I have just decide to do a nice basic course in Galway. I nearly went grey when I heard the prices involved in university fees over in other parts of Europe. But yeah, and you're making plans to try and make that happen for him, which is amazing. But you have your own business now. And I remember the day I met you, we were at an All-Ireland Business
Foundation meeting.
Yeah. And you said something to me, and it really, really stuck with me. You said, I'm involved in lifestyle and health and nutrition and so on. And I believe that, most of us, if not all of us, don't need to be on medication.
100%. 100%. And I'm coming recently nearly out of an infection, sinus infection. And I'm not a saint, and I'm walking my talk. I was still debating to go on antibiotics or not to go on antibiotics. I mean, I had full signs and symptoms of a sinus infection, and it went on for nearly 2 months.
Wow.
Okay. So up and down, I'll better go back and whatever. I am nearly out with no antibiotic. Okay. I was stubborn, but I need to do everything else in the background to make sure that my body is able to fight the infection. Yeah. So just to make sure that not everyone gets the right message. I'm a big believer that we do not need medication unless it's a very acute case and you need life intervention. But in long term, what I advise everyone, and I believe in, you need to invest energy and time in the right conditions for the body, and the body has its own capacity of healing.
So there's a few interesting things there that you brought up. One, you went through 2 months of a sinus infection without antibiotics. Most people don't want to go through 2 months of an infection. They just want an immediate solution. And this is the world we live in now, where we want constant, immediate solutions. But the other thing is of not going down the road of antibiotics. I was in the GP about 3 weeks ago because one of my daughters was sick with a vomiting bug, and there was posters in the waiting room about, antibiotics only work for a small amount of things. It doesn't sort out viruses and so on. Because definitely years ago, there was this thing of any symptom you have, any illness, an antibiotic will sort it. And people nearly were demanding a prescription of antibiotics from their GP, and probably more prescriptions were written for antibiotics than needed to be, where now there's this issue that the antibiotics are becoming less effective because our bodies have become used to the antibiotics, so they're not working on our symptoms anymore. And this is the thing, we've been around for who knows how many years, hundreds of thousands of years. And it's now I'm becoming more aware of, and you can see these dramas and documentaries on the likes of Netflix of how this new medication would have been introduced into America and was the answer. And then years later, it's all the knock-on effects of the issues it caused people. And you can actually see it was all about corporate greed and so on, pushing through, getting young girls who looked hot and amazing to entice the doctor to try out the...
I was part of them for 10 years. And that I wasn't looking great and whatever, but I'm telling you, is real life. That's real. So I was medical representative for 7 years. And that's exactly like the attraction for being part of that. And I was a top performer. I was spot on, in my job. But
so you were made believe that what you're selling is the greatest product ever.
And
then you
I
go
was
in
very
pushing.
lucky. I could never, I had that verticality in me since I was a child. I don't know where it's coming. It's probably a gift. I could not sell anything that I didn't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
So I was promoting probiotics.
Okay.
So I listened to you so carefully when you said about the antibiotics, and it made sense to me because my body, my health is a victim of my mom needed to go to work when I had a constant throat infection, tonsillitis and all that on a regular basis, if I can say. And I was given antibiotics after antibiotics after antibiotics. And I wasn't breastfed. So not knowing what I know now, I look back and I see where is coming my episodes of arthritis every now and again, my hormonal unbalance, who actually was the cause for my scoliosis, and then my digestive issues and all that. So it was due to overuse of antibiotics. And then I was promoting probiotics to counteract the effects of antibiotics and to teach the medical. It was very challenging to do that work. And I realized how wobbly is the system.
Yeah, but it is a scary thing of the longer they keep us alive, the more money they make from us, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even put that aspect, but definitely.
I know I'm a man and it's a controversial issue, but you mentioned breastfeeding. Do you think, breastfeeding is really important?
100%. Yeah, I did everything was in my power to breastfeed my son for as long as I could. Now for me was 3 months and a half, something like that, because something happened to my ex-husband health-wise, and we went through hospitals and appointments and all that. So I could not be with him. So in that moment, the connection, and I had to. The stress took a burden on our my relationship with my son and breastfed, and
Because I know I wasn't breastfed, because in the early 80s, there was a thing in Ireland where they were telling mothers not to breastfeed.
It was the same in Romania.
And to use the powder stuff you get on the shelf in supermarkets
Yeah,
and so on.
exactly.
And I fully get that there's people who can't breastfeed and that having that option available is essential.
I mean, imagine that my mom came to help me with my baby when Lucas was born. And I had to send her home because I couldn't put up with her, give him baby powder, like milk powder, give him the powder formula, give me the formula, because he's not having, and I was measuring him. I knew exactly that he has enough and he's fed all that. Yeah. And I said, okay, you better go home because you stressed the hell out of me and I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So
there can be stressful times, you know, when there's a little infant and there's people giving their opinions on how to feed them and change them.
Definitely, absolutely. And Lucas was a child who probably used antibiotics 3 times in his own life, and he's fine, thankfully.
There's an interesting conversation as well about statins.
Yes. Another type of antibiotics.
Is it? Yes.
No, I'm messing. Okay. But I mean, the same danger, kind of, from where I stand.
Like, I know friends of mine who've been put on medication. One is for cholesterol, another one is for diabetes, and they're young. As in, I consider myself young, so they're young. I'm giving them the label of young as well. But it's scary how people are just put on medication now, you know, at this very, very young age, in their 40s, for life.
Yeah, that's for me the most scary part. To work to do this work in a part of the society or the life where we are so, the power, our inner power, we are so disconnected from what we are as human beings.
We've been conditioned though so much.
Yes.
So it's like, and I don't know, it's the same in Romania, but before, like, you know, the authority was the church, it was the police, the you know, your doctor has the authority still today. So anything that they say, and I'm not having to go at GPs or anything out there.
Yeah, like
I've met doctors as well who have very different opinions from what one says to what the other says. So it's not like it's a blanket consensus that they all have. But if we're given something, you know, there's people who just don't get the second opinion or don't say, you know, can I make changes first before going down the road of long-term medication?
Okay, so I will tell you that I had 3 episodes in my life where I was gobsmacked by their reaction and their answers to me, and I could not take their answer as the bottom line. I said to me it didn't make any sense, and I was looking for answers and I was looking to understand what's behind that, and I'm grateful that I did, because that brought me to where I am now. So first was with the scoliosis, and I did not understand how, from a perfect family, we were so, my grandma was a teacher, and she was so careful to have a position, to not to read and to study in bed, to sit at the table, to whatever. So all balanced, and we had a very I had personally a very settled routine as a child. So I had the perfect conditions. So the food was good, great, very good diet and all that. I didn't understand why my scoliosis. So it couldn't be explained to me, why did I develop that scoliosis? That was the first one. And then before I had Lucas, I had a pregnancy, and I was 24, and I went through a twins pregnancy, and I lost the pregnancy when I was 23 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And I've been told that was because of a full moon. And in that night was so many, and I mean, I'm a spiritual person. I know what full moon means, and I know, like, but still, like, and that was a nurse who told me that. And I was like, can you not explain what? I understand it happens to a certain extent, like to a certain percentage. Okay, there is, I understand. But what happened to my body that I wasn't able to bring the pregnancy to the full? So my body perceived, because of my spine, my whole anatomy and physiology of the body didn't allow the pregnancy to go to the full development. My body perceived that I'm ready because we're two.
Okay, yes.
Okay, they were both big. They were normal, developed like a singular pregnancy. And my womb just opened normal and I went in labor and whatever. So now I understand now, but put a 24 years old woman, girl, I was very young at that stage and I could not understand. And what happened? I had that intuition telling me that, okay, you will be better if you have very fast, you get pregnant again and you get the child. So the healing process will be easier. But what happened was when I approached 21 weeks of pregnancy with Lucas, I got in a state of anxiety because I said, okay, it's going to happen again because I didn't know how many doctors, gynecologists I saw in between. I can't even remember how many, but was more than 5. I went from the best city in Romania, medical-wise, to Hungary to find answers for that question. What happened to me, to my body, and how I can prevent to... No one sit down with me to sit me down and explain what happened into my body and what... It's not going to happen again, or we have to do something to prevent. Until I said to my gynecologist, the baby, in Romania we do scans. They do scans more often than here, and you are going in private altogether. And I've been told, oh, the baby is nice, it's good, healthy, whatever. And I said, yes, but the mommy is not. And he was looking at me and like, what do you mean? And I said, yeah, but do you remember that I'm approaching the same? And an extra check brought up the reason. Because I opened my mouth. Because I self-advocated for myself. So otherwise, I could have gone home and in 2 weeks to have exactly the same experience. Just because I decided to open my mouth in that moment.
And what did the extra check do or reveal?
An extra check was the womb. So the cervix. The cervix was prone to open because of the spine condition. And they literally they sealed the cervix until the pregnancy was fully developed. And then
if they hadn't sealed it, it was a miscarriage again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was just, I remember exactly like was yesterday. That moment when I said, mom is not enough. I could have very easily say, oh, the baby's fine, I'm going home, and that's it. That's awareness.
Yeah.
That's deciding to self-advocate. That's the decision of choosing yourself, don't minding what they've been told in school, that they don't have. That's what I'm trying to teach people and to teach my clients. Self-advocate. Don't be afraid to put yourself first.
Yeah.
Because they don't put you first. They put their own career first. And in a very positive way, I'm saying that. They put their own career, insurance, all that. You need to put you first.
Yeah. Now, one thing I will say that I do like what's happening across, the interaction you have with medical teams now, like GPs or nurses when you go, is this like making every contact count where, you'll go in and, most of them will say, how are things otherwise? How is everything else? How's your job going? How's life at home? And, so they're getting a more holistic.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that. I have probably less interaction with the medical world now, but that's never the case. It was never the case back then.
No.
So I was never asked how is my life, how stressed I am, how whatever. Actually, you are right. When I came in Ireland, I had a moment of burnt out. I was working night shifts and day work and all that, studying in the same time. And I had a burnt out, and I went to the GP in Clonmel, and he said, as long as you are under my care, you are not going to do night shifts anymore. And he was the one who paid attention to how my life looks like, and was the first time when I actually had the proper chat and care and all that. But normal, like, I mean, when you're going to a consultant, they don't really, they don't have the luxury of the time. I don't think they want to have, they have the pressure of patient after patient after patient. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And the rents that they're paying are just, like it's, no one's winning out. But statins, talk to me about statins, because again, the information that's out there is, high cholesterol is really bad. I remember a friend of mine was giving off to me because I was saying, I love omelets. And they said, do you have them often? I said, I'm having an omelet a few times a week. And they're like, that's too much cholesterol in your eggs. And so we're all being fed that cholesterol is bad and high cholesterol, and there's high cholesterol in eggs and da-da-da-da-da-da.
Okay, so there is recent study recent research that shows that there is no really connection between LDL cholesterol and the cardiovascular risk and deaths, so heart attack and strokes. That's one aspect. The second aspect is LDL cholesterol is the bad cholesterol. It's called the bad cholesterol. Statins do lower LDL cholesterol. There is no doubt about that. A lot of studies shows that that's exactly what statins do. LDL cholesterol, in my world, the body doesn't make anything bad to harm us. And I had my gallbladder removed. That was the third episode and I'm suffering at times because there was no need for the gallbladder to be removed. Okay. So in an ultra specialized medical care system, unfortunately that's what medical care system is, they look at the organ, they look at the organ like the organ is separate, and what that organ does, how to cut what is the bad and how to make to work. Okay, so they look at the liver and they saw there is an LDL, what brings the clutters on the arteries.
Mm-hmm.
But that the LDL are two LDLs. One is 80% is the healthy LDL, what doesn't damage the artery, and the 20% of the LDL is the bad guy.
Okay.
And you are in control. Your body knows exactly how much bad LDL to make if you give the right conditions. Now, the problem is that that bad LDL is created by glucose.
Okay.
And that's sugar.
Yes.
And it's not the sugar in the fruits. It's the refined sugar.
Okay. Processed
sugar, yeah. And the carbs.
Okay.
That's the biggest problem. And everything what is fast food and fast convenience.
Yes.
The labels what are having more than 10 ingredients or whatever, and you don't understand half of them.
Yeah.
And okay, so this is the problem. So LDL itself on a normal levels, under the LDL on the lipid profile markers is triglycerides.
Yeah.
They are the indicator for the cardio risk. Okay. Not the LDL. The LDL is okay. The LDL is the indicator for statins.
Yes.
That's why the doctors are using it. Because when you have a high level of LDL or higher level of LDL, you can prescribe statins. And I'm not going in that direction, okay? I'm not going in the explaining that, whatever. I think you should question that. When your doctor is telling you, like I told one of my clients, once you are 55, they are all on statins in America at least. it's better to take the pressure off and to put your mind to ease and take the statins. I have an 83 years old, my partner's mom. She's on statins for the last 15 years. She still has the mini strokes and all the side effects of statins. No lifestyle changes at all. Her diet is the same because she's on statins. So she expects the statins to do the job. That's where I'm getting so frustrated.
Yes.
And everything else is not working.
So I was reading something recently, and it was saying that they're now noticing that if people take ibuprofen on a regular basis, that it actually has a massive negative effect on gut bacteria. And we all need good gut bacteria for overall, well-being and functioning and stuff of the body. What are the side effects of taking statins?
So the main side effects of the statins are dementia-like symptoms. So you're not actually having dementia, but you have dementia-like symptoms. The cataracts.
Okay, yeah.
And the pain in the joints and the arthritis. That's what I know.
Yeah.
Probably there are more, but the most prevalent one is the dementia-like symptoms. And a lot of people are complaining that they are forgetful and all that. And you see, if you are looking at the group age, those people are prone to. So I think pharma very much relied on, that won't be very much put on the statins, but that's people, it's clear. I'm coming from a place where I'm monitoring these things on a daily basis. So it's clear people who stopped taking the statins, they don't have those episodes.
I remember when skimmed milk came into Ireland and it was a thing, and then low-fat milk and low-fat yogurt, and, the fat is bad. So everyone then were having just kind of your carbs and your protein. And now there seems to be a little bit more clarity coming through where it's actually, no, good fat is good. So don't be taking the skim milk. Take your full-fat milk. If you want to drink milk, take your full-fat yogurt instead of your 0% or your low-fat, because there's other stuff in that to make it tasty and all this. So I think, we all need to be aware of, just because information comes out and it says that this is the new thing that we should be doing, just question it as well, because I think we really need to go back to low ingredients in a product.
And that's the bottom line.
Natural ingredients, and also lifestyle.
Yes, exactly. So food is one part of the lifestyle, but there are another 5 there, what we need to pay attention. So in the food direction, I'm just going to say that I have a philosophy. So the closest is the food to its form in nature, the better is.
Yeah.
That should be your indicator and bottom line. So the comparison with what? So for example, I have been asked if the rice cakes are healthy. Think of the rice and how long it takes from the rice, the grain, to have the rice cakes. And you have the answer there. You don't need me to tell you what. So the process is very long. The same with ketchup or whatever. So when it's very long processed and you can't make at home. So if something can be made at home, okay, look at the ingredients and see. But if it's something what you can't make at home, forget about it.
Like you did a brilliant video on LinkedIn one day and you're going through different milks and even your almond milk and your oat milk and actually breaking that down into like the oat milks that are out there. What are the actual good ones to get?
It's probably in Ireland it's one brand. I never came across with a second one. It's one brand what is on the market shelf what has 3 ingredients.
It's Rude, is it?
It's Rude. Yeah. Rude Health, yeah.
Rude Health oat milk.
Yeah, exactly. Oat milk, coconut milk. And from all the alternative milks, coconut is the closest to is less processed because because it's the fat in the coconut. And by the way, coconut is a healthy fat. Has the capacity of being shelf life, natural, longer, and they don't need to put too much in it too. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was amazing. I took my oat milk out of the fridge because I've changed from dairy to oat, thinking I'm doing the right thing and so on. But it was amazing the ingredients in the oat.
Yeah. So basically, my approach in regard to milk is, as an adult, you don't need milk because there is a peptide what your liver needs to release in order to break down the protein in the milk. And that peptide increases inflammation all over in the body. And one factor what we don't need to increase unnecessarily is inflammation, because they then can stay up for no reason. And drinking milk every day, imagine that your inflammation is. And that's why I don't encourage. Now, food, dairy, other dairy products like yogurt and cottage cheese, or kefir, that will be my favorite.
So get your calcium from that.
Yes and no, not necessarily for the calcium, but for the protein.
Okay, but they say like after menopause for women that they're low in calcium, and that can lead to, more brittle bones and so on.
King's College University in London, they just released recently a study showing that it's not calcium what causes the brittle bones and all that, but we do need calcium. Calcium is involved in not only in nervous system and all that, so we do need calcium. But the milk, it's one product, or the dairy, it's one product. Leafy greens are very high in calcium. Almonds are very high in calcium. Nice. Sardines are very high in calcium. So I do not drink milk because I can't process, but I do have probably too much calcium, a little bit too much calcium. So that was my last blood tested in March. So I was at the higher limit of calcium, which was a surprise for me, knowing that I'm not eating milk at all. Yeah. So I'm eating everything else, but yeah.
So I suppose the takeaway points for people here are to try and eat something that is as natural as possible. That really is not processed. So even if you're deciding between an apple or a couple of plain biscuits, obviously take the apple because it's natural.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I brought an apple and some biscuits today. I did both. But I mean, it's probably a conversation that could go on for hours and hours and hours in terms of what people should eat and so on. And I think this is really where people just need to go and reach out to you. And there's a few really cool things happening, which I want to mention to our listeners. One is you do in-person masterclasses where people can all come together, and they're small enough groups to maybe 10 or 12 people, and you do cooking together. It's an all-day thing, and you go through different ingredients and the foods, why this food and not that food, and like there's people who come back and do it again because they enjoy it so much. It's a real communal experience, and it's fun, but there's huge knowledge and insights there. And I think, having that experience with someone in person is massive. You're also going to be releasing various courses through your website, and one of them coming up, can we say what it is?
Yes, it's an optimal cholesterol.
Optimal cholesterol, and that is really helping people.
It's not only food. It is mainly food, because this is my favorite topic, but it's lifestyle. Yeah, because all these changes, so the food is the bottom line. That's the foundation. But in order the health to install or to reinstall after a period of missing, you need more than the food. So the foundation is okay, but you need to build towards. So you take out what is not working for you, and you bring in what is working and what makes you healthier. So the whole lifestyle, and obvious, I have a big passion of touching the emotional side as well, because we are human beings. We can't deny our emotions.
No, absolutely. And of course you do one-on-one.
Yes, I do one-to-one.
Workshops with people as well. And accountability is a big factor in that, which I think is so important.
Yeah.
Because, people are coming to you with issues, and it's one thing saying, okay, this is the solution, but it's very important to actually have someone there driving you on and encouraging you and supporting you, because it's often hard for people to make lifestyle changes.
I will only say something about the blockages. I come across with a lot of people who are saying, I tried so many diets, I tried so many programs, I was in Slimming World and in all that, and I bounced back, and I don't know why. It's a limiting belief there, and that's why my work is so valuable and it's so effective, because I'm working, and it's so unique, I'd say, for the moment. I do not have knowledge of someone putting those two together yet, but I'm sure that's the direction. I'm talking about a limiting belief. So the person who tried a lot of diets and didn't, or programs, and didn't have the capacity, or the program wasn't okay, and didn't follow the principles the right way to reach the goals and to deliver sustainable changes, or the person doesn't believe or doesn't see himself or herself losing weight. And then you need to work on programming, and you need to work on the subconscious mind, and you have to know how to do that, because it takes a bit of work and a bit of knowledge and tools and all that. So once I identify that, and that's probably my gift, that I am able to spot that in a few sessions. If it's a limiting belief on an emotional level, we are able to unpack that and work on. And that's why my clients have success on long term.
Fantastic. And if people want to get more information, go to Smaranda's website, AuthenticHealth.ie. But you're also moving into the world of podcasting.
And writing a book.
Brilliant.
Yes. So these are my two big projects. First will be the podcast, and the second is my book, which is going to bring together my personal life and a bit of advice. Like, it's probably me talking to me back then, me now talking to my old self, and reflecting on what lessons I learned throughout my life story.
Excellent. Well, I'm delighted to...
When you choose you, that's the title of the book. So.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm delighted to welcome and invite you into the family of the GK Media world, because you'll be releasing your podcast series in collaboration with GK Media Studios, and we look forward to supporting you and hearing so many more nuggets of wisdom and advice that you'll be dispensing on listeners. And without sounding condescending, just well done, you.
Thank you.
It's been some challenge.
Thank you so much for helping me to share and to give me the chance to open a little bit more. And thank you so much for making me so comfortable, because it wasn't an easy topic, but I have to say it was very enjoyable. Thank you.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.